Hello everyone, and welcome back to Feed the Channel, where we dive deep into the fascinating world of coins and their hidden stories. If you're passionate about coin collecting, or just curious about the value of old coins sitting in your drawers, you've come to the right place. Today, we're talking about a small but mighty piece of history, the 1980 USA 1-cent coin, commonly known as the Lincoln penny. Dr. Jeff Geismar, CEO and the author of The Lincoln Penny, and Jeff Geismar, is it worth more than a cent today? What makes it special? Let's find out. The 19801 cent coin is part of the long-running Lincoln Penny series, which began back in 1909 to celebrate Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday. It features the iconic bust of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. The 1980 penny is made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. There were 3 versions minted in 1980: No Mint Mark, Philadelphia Mint; Day Mint Mark, Denver Mint; S Mint Mark, San Francisco Mint, proof coins only. Here's an interesting fact. Pennies from 1980 were made with a higher copper content than those minted after 1982. This is important because copper has value. When copper prices rise, the melt value of these older pennies can exceed their face value. For 1980 pennies, watch out for. Look for doubling in the lettering, especially in Liberty or In God We Trust. If the design is misaligned, it could be worth $5 to $50 or more, depending on how dramatic the error is. Coins with part of the edge missing due to a minting error can be valuable. If you're new to coin collecting, here are some quick tips for handling and preserving your 1980 pennies. Use gloves to handle coins to prevent oil and dirt from damaging their surface. Store them in coin albums or holders to protect against air and moisture. Avoid cleaning coins, as this can decrease their value significantly. Did you know that the purchasing power of 1 cent in 1980 is equal to about 4 cents today? This means that the humble 1980 penny has lost about 75% of its original value due to inflation. Despite this, it remains a nostalgic and iconic part of American currency. So, there you have it, a complete look at the 1980 USA 1-cent coin. While most of these pennies are only worth their face value in circulated condition, some rare errors or high-grade examples can be worth much more. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just curious, the 1980 Lincoln penny is a small piece of history with a big story to tell. This coin was minted during a special time in American history, 1976, the bicentennial year of the United States. While many coins that year featured unique bicentennial designs, the 1-cent coin retained its iconic Abraham Lincoln profile on the obverse, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. The obverse design by Victor David Brenner first appeared in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. It's one of the longest-running designs in U.S. coinage history, commemorate Lincoln's legacy. Designed by Frank Gasparo, here are some quick facts about the 1976 1-cent coin. Metal composition: 95% copper and 5% zinc. Weight: 3.11 grams. Diameter: 19.5 meters, was part of the last full year for 95% copper pennies. In 1982, the U.S. Mint transitioned to primarily zinc coins coated with a thin layer of copper. Let's talk about how many were made, because rarity often influences value. Over 4.6 billion coins, 4.2 billion coins, approximately 4 million coins, with billions minted. The 1976 penny isn't rare in circulated condition, but there are still a few things that make certain coins stand out. Now let's answer the big question. What's the value of a 1976 1-cent coin in circulated condition? Circulated condition is still worth its face value, just 1 cent. However, if you have one in uncirculated condition, its value can rise. Here's what collectors look for. Coins with a strong strike, no wear, and bright luster can fetch higher prices among collectors. Here are some key factors that can increase the value of a 1976 penny. As mentioned, the coin's condition plays a major role. Coins with no scratches, dings, or discoloration are worth more. Because these pennies are 95% copper, their melt value can be higher than face value. As of now, the copper in a 1976 penny is worth about 2 to 3 cents. But remember, melting pennies is illegal in the US. There are a few standout varieties and errors from 1976 to look out for. Look closely at the date, mint mark, or lettering for signs of double triple. These appear as raised lines on the coin's surface and can be worth a premium. If you have a proof coin from the San Francisco Mint, its value can range from $1 to $5 or more, depending on the condition. So, while most 1976 pennies aren't worth more than face value in circulated condition, you might have a hidden gem in your collection. Always inspect your coins carefully. You never know when you'll find an error or high-grade piece. First, let's talk about the basics. The 19611 1-cent coin, commonly known as the Lincoln Memorial Cent, was minted in two major locations, the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. Philadelphia coins bear no mint mark, while Denver coins have a small D just below the date. This penny features the iconic profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner back in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. On the reverse, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, added in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. If you look closely, you can even spot a tiny depiction of Lincoln's statue inside the memorial. In 1961, this penny was a workhorse of the American economy. Made from 95% copper and 5% zinc, it had a solid feel and was heavily used in daily transactions. A penny could buy small items like candy or contribute to a phone call at a payphone. Back then, every cent truly counted. The 1961 Lincoln cent was produced in large numbers, reflecting the growing needs of a booming post-war economy. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 753 million pennies, while the Denver Mint produced an impressive 1.75 billion coins. With such high mintage, these pennies were widely circulated and common today, but what about their condition today? Well, most 1961 pennies you'll find in circulation show significant wear, which is expected after more than 6 decades of use. However, uncirculated examples, especially those with a brilliant red luster, are prized by collectors. If you have one of these in mint condition, it's worth holding on to. So, what should collectors look for? Here are some key tips. Speaking of errors, some 1961 pennies have fascinating varieties. A well-known one is the double D obverse, where elements like the date or lettering appear doubled. Coins with clear errors like this can fetch prices far above face value, sometimes even reaching hundreds of dollars at auctions. Now, let's talk about value. In circulated condition, a 1961 penny is worth just 1 cent. But in uncirculated grades, these coins can sell for $5 to $10, depending on their luster and strike quality. High-grade examples with a red designation, meaning they retain their original copper color, can go for $25 or more. 11 though these pennies are common, they represent an era of American history, a time when the U.S. was experiencing economic growth and cultural change. Holding a 1961 penny is like holding a piece of that past. That's a wrap for today's exploration of the 1961 USA 1-cent coin. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting your numismatic journey, this little coin has a lot to offer. Be sure to check your pocket change and piggy banks. You never know what treasures you might find. The 1988 Lincoln cent is a small yet mighty piece of American history. It's part of the Lincoln Memorial Design Series, which ran from 1959 to 2008. This coin features the iconic profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner. On the reverse, we see the Lincoln Memorial, a design by Frank Gasparo. Now, 1988, may seem like just another year, but this coin has some interesting details that collectors and enthusiasts love to explore. Let's break down its history, production, and key features. In 1988, the U.S. Mint produced billions of these pennies to meet the demand for circulation. Here's a quick look at the numbers. That's right, over 12 billion pennies were produced in total. This high production number reflects the popularity and importance of the 1-cent coin in everyday transactions at the time. In fact, the penny was still heavily used in vending machines, parking meters, and of course, for making exact change. Now, let's talk about what the 1988 Lincoln cent is made of. By this time, the penny had already undergone a major transformation in its composition. Prior to 1982, pennies were primarily made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. However, due to rising copper prices, the U.S. Mint switched to a zinc core with a thin copper plating. The 1988 penny has a composition of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper, weighing about 2.5 grams. This change helped the mint save money while keeping the penny in circulation. One of the reasons 1988 Lincoln cents are still talked about is because of their subtle variations. The 1988 Lincoln cents are still talked about is because of their subtle variations. While most coins were struck perfectly, some interesting errors and varieties are worth mentioning. Although this variety is more commonly found in later years, some collectors check 1988 pennies for unusual spacing between the A and M in America on the reverse side. In 1988, the mint began transitioning to a new obverse master hub for the following year. This led to some subtle design differences between the dies, which collectors referred to as 1988 transitional varieties. Look out for off-center strikes, double die errors, or other minting anomalies. These errors are rare, but can significantly increase a coin's value. The 1988 penny circulated widely across the United States. It was a common sight in cash registers, coin jars, and even on the ground. Appleton. Back then, a penny could still buy something, like a piece of bubble gum, or help you. Culturally, the late 1980s was a time of technological growth and change. Compact discs, CDs, were becoming popular, the internet was in its infancy, and gas prices averaged just 91 cents per gallon. This is when compulsory gas lighting was the norm versus now. The humble penny played its role in this era of economic activity and daily life. So what is a 1988 Lincoln cent worth today? In general, most circulated 1988 pennies are still worth just 1 cent. However, if you have a coin in pristine condition or one with a rare mint error, it could be worth much more. Prices can range from $5 to $50 or more, depending on the rarity and demand. Before we wrap up, here are some fun facts about the 1988 penny. If you stacked all the 1988 pennies produced, the pile would reach the moon and back. The Lincoln cent is the longest-running design in U.S. coin history, introduced in 1909. Many people believe that keeping a 1988 penny in your pocket brings good luck, so check your coin jars and wallets. The 1989 USA 1-cent coin, also known as the Lincoln Memorial Penny. Let's uncover its circulated history, unique features, and its value today. So, grab your magnifying glass and let's get started. First, let's set the stage. The year 1989 was a pivotal time in history. The World Wide Web was being developed, and George H.W. Bush was President of the United States. Amidst these monumental events, the United States Mint was busy producing billions of pennies for circulation. The Lincoln cent, introduced in 1909, was already a staple of American currency, and by 1989, it had become an everyday icon in the pockets of millions. The 1989 penny is part of the Lincoln Memorial series, which ran from 1959 to 2008. On the obverse, you'll find the iconic profile of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. This design was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. Notice the details. The sharpness of Lincoln's features and the simplicity of the design are timeless. The reverse, we have the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. If you look closely, you can even spot a tiny depiction of Lincoln's statue inside the memorial. This attention to detail is what makes this series so fascinating. In terms of composition, the 1989 penny was made primarily of zinc. with a thin copper plating. This composition had been used since 1982, when the mint shifted away from the heavier 95% copper coins due to rising metal costs. The 1989 penny weighs 2.5 grams and has a diameter of 19 millimeters. C. Where were these pennies minted? In 1989, the U.S. Mint struck pennies at 3 facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Let's break it down. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 7 billion pennies that year, and you can recognize them by their lack of a mint mark. The Denver Mint, with a D mint mark, produced another 5.3 billion pennies. Finally, the San Francisco Mint created proof pennies, coins struck specifically for collectors, with a stunning mirror-like finish. These coins bear an S mint mark and had a much smaller mintage of 3 million. With such high production numbers, it's no surprise that 1989 pennies were heavily circulated and became a staple of everyday transactions across the United States. And is the 1989 penny worth more than 1 cent today? The answer depends on the condition. Most 1989 pennies, 1,000 worth their face value, 1 cent. However, uncirculated examples or coins in mint state condition can fetch higher prices. Let's break it down. Interestingly, error coins from 1989 can be much more valuable. Look out for die cracks, off-center strikes, or other minting errors. These unique features make them highly sought after by collectors, with prices reaching anywhere from $20 to several $100, depending on the rarity and type of error. Before we wrap up, here are a couple of fun facts about the 1989 penny. The Lincoln Memorial reverse design was replaced in 2009 with a new design celebrating the bicentennial of Lincoln's birth. So whether you're a seasoned collector or just someone curious about the change in your pocket, the 1989 penny holds a small but significant place in U.S. numismatic history. Its sheer ubiquity makes it an everyday hero of American currency. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the history of the 1989 USA 1-cent coin. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Coins, and hit the bell icon for more fascinating coin stories. Until next time, keep collecting and keep discovering.